After talking to a dozen businesses about implementing AI solutions, I've noticed one thing. Most companies overthink their AI readiness. So data infrastructure requirements is going to be the first part of this. So data infrastructure requirements is going to be our first topic we're going to cover today. So we're going to talk about what data you actually need, simple strategies, simple storage solutions that do work, and then making your data AI ready while making sure that it is able to be connecting to everything else. Now, when we talk about data infrastructure requirements, what data do you actually need? Well, honestly, I think there's a huge myth that you need millions of records to be able to use AI in your business. Simply just not the case, right? You can actually have just a few hundred, right? All of that data, you can actually use that for your customer support AI. That'll help them, that AI bot tap directly into the customers, what kind of pages they visited. If you've got that in your CRM, like something like HubSpot or Salesforce, if you've got all of their payment data in there, what products they've already purchased, what conversations they've already had, all their CRM notes, all that stuff is in there. You can actually use all of that. There are quite a few AI tools that are able to integrate directly with your CRM and use that data when chatting with your customers. You can also use something as simple as Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel. Spreadsheets are really great for organizing that data. And as long as it's data that's not going to be changing frequently or doesn't need to be manipulated very often, it can be a great low cost, low budget type of place to store your data. And then also emails as well. You can use email data to be able to automate your AI processes and use that data for your AI solutions. Now, when we talk about some of the other solutions that may be a little bit more popular in terms of cloud storage, you might be thinking of something like Snowflake, Azure, AWS, or maybe even Microsoft Dynamics. Those are all really popular options if you have actual proper database solutions already in your business. So when we talk about existing systems, you're going to be talking about things like Google Sheets, emails, website content. You may have some internal SOP documents, maybe some internal resources that you want your AI to pull from. Maybe you want to limit those and dumb those down so your AI is not spilling out, company secrets and things like that. But still, all of those data sets that you have already that already exist that aren't really in a traditional data warehouse kind of database structure are going to work for you and are really easy to implement with AI tools. Now, you also want to make sure that your data is AI ready. So when you are going through all your data, you're going to want to do some quick cleanup. Some great tools for that are going to be Google Sheets, actually. Google Sheets is really good at manipulating that data and getting that, getting rid of duplicates, making sure everything's formatted correctly, getting rid of any sort of errors in data in terms of, just making sure that it's organized properly and everything lines up. You can use ChatGPT to give you some really good prompts, some formulas rather, to be able to structure this data and clean it up in the way that you need it to be so that everything's uniform and you're not going to get funky results from your AI because you've given it some funky data. So some easy standardization approaches for all of your data in Google Sheets is to really just make sure that you have all of your columns needed, and then each data point is its own row. If you have some like complex data structures where you have relationships between different data points or different records, you're going to have to probably draw some sort of visualization of that. That's going to be the easiest way for someone like myself or someone internally in your organization or another agency to be able to figure out how this data is connected and how it's going to work together. We can't do that so well in Google Sheets. It's one of the big limitations, but I think this is kind of a more advanced use case, which is why we're covering it, but also why I'm still going to recommend Google Sheets like 95% of the time for folks. So now when we talk about connecting everything together, we're going to have some popular options there that we can use. We've got tools like Celigo, Zapier, Make.com. Websites can sometimes have their own integrations or their own, so you can get your own plugins and things like that can still do some of this AI work and things of that nature. But no code automation options are what you're probably going to opt for and want to opt for if you're looking to implement something really quickly. It's one of the best things that you can use. It's really easy to change. It gets a working model created up and running so you can test and see if things are working for a really low expense as well. And then from there you can pivot and make changes as needed. But when it comes to getting everything connected, really those tools are going to be the best because they're going to help you figure out, even if we have all this stuff connected and it's working, is it doing what we want it to do? Is this having the impact that we want it to do? Is our data clean enough to give us actually good outputs? Since we're talking about data infrastructure right now, things like that. Now we'll go into a cost benefit analysis section of this. So when you come across your cost benefit analysis, you're going to want to really figure out exactly what it is that your project is going to cost in terms of not only like the real costs, like how much money is this going to cost, but what is this going to save us as well. So when we talk about the real costs of the platform, of the project, we've obviously got our platform subscriptions, typically $50 to $200 a month, and then you've probably got some sort of extra cost there for text, SMS messages, sometimes calls. You've also got it for every API call that you have as well, any sort of formatting, things like that. Basically, every step of the way, you might have some sort of call or API that you're using that you'll also have to pay for as well, outside of the platform that's allowing you to kind of build these steps together. And then you've got your implementation fees. So the cost of getting everything set up and working depends on how complex your project is. This can be, something that can only take a couple of days. It can also be something that takes several weeks or several months, just depending on how complex it's looking. So you'll have your initial setup costs for that as well. And then you'll also have some monthly maintenance with that as well, so depending on how many moving parts there are, and how many things need to be managed and sought after to make sure everything's working as it should. And then we've got ROI examples from some actual clients. So we've got a client that actually, past 3 months we've been working with, and we've actually doubled their lead conversion because we were able to automate their customer support and their initial lead contact. So leads were able to come in, get a quote, and be able to get that information immediately from visiting the site. We didn't have to build out a bunch of different web pages to have all this data. We really built a simple formula based on 5 questions that they need answered in order to be able to give them a price. So where are they located? What type of project are we looking at? What's your timeline? When do you need service? And then give them an actual quote for that. And that was super beneficial for them because they were actually able to give customers quotes immediately. They didn't have to intake that information, process it, do all their calculations, and then send it back to them. The customer was able to just come in, get all that information right off the bat, and know, like, hey, this was a great experience. This is the price I want. I'm good with that. Or that was way too much than I was willing to spend. I don't like that. I'm going to leave. It weeds people out. It also helps you get more of what you're looking for out of your customers, which is people that want to take action. So those folks are coming up to the top, and everybody else is really getting filtered out at really marginal expense to you, right? It's not taking you any time, and because you're getting these people so fast, they are more likely to go with you because they're getting answers. You're responsive. You've already started that relationship within moments of them landing on your website. Now, when we look at where you'll save money, so there's typically going to be some big wins with the automations. So the automations are going to, again, cut your lead cost down, right? Because you're not going to need as many leads because you'll be converting more of them. So your leads that do come in are going to be easier to convert. They're going to be higher quality. Folks right away will know, like, if they're serious, they're going to come get a quote, get more information, talk to your AI bot, and be able to really get into that experience. And if they're like, oh, I don't know, I was just window shopping, they're not going to really take that step. So that's going to filter them out. So you'll save some money on your lead costs. And then you'll also have some reduction in errors as well. So humans consistently, again, provide as much of a great experience as they can. Of course, things happen. You're jumping in and out of calls. You're jumping from one task to the other. Things happen, right? Things get lost in the cracks, et cetera, et cetera. Error reduction is a huge one here. So all the follow-up, it's just a really consistent experience for your leads, right? They get all the right information. They're getting all that attention through automated systems like email and text. And they're just more likely to convert when a human jumps in to collect a payment or onboard them or whatever that human step is. They're just more likely to do that because the experience was so consistent. They got all the information they needed. You really crafted a journey for them, and you have more control over that because you know exactly when humans are coming in and what they're saying because you've got all these scripts and everything's more organized, as opposed to, like, yeah, we talk to them and then we follow up with them and then we get a payment from them and then we send them the form, and then if we don't get the form, then we send them an email, and then if we don't email them, then we call them to get them to fill out the form. And you don't need to do all of that. you can have it to where if they don't fill out the form, you just keep sending them an email until they do. You don't have to jump in and do all that, right? All that stuff can be taken care of. And that's where you'll save a lot of money, not only with error reduction, but time saving as well, right? You don't have to do any of that repetitive stuff. And then we've also got revenue opportunities. So really, I think the biggest revenue opportunities that we've seen work are going to be more sales from the same amount of leads. So your marketing dollars are going to stay the same. You're still going to get 500 leads for the month, but you're going to be converting like 35% of them instead of just 20% of them. So the same advertising costs, but you're going to collect more cash, and that's really the biggest revenue opportunity that we see is like we can spend the same amount of money on marketing and make more money. It's incredible. Now, when we talk about your team capabilities and what your team needs, so we're going to need to know, well, one, we're going to cover who you really need, and it's not as many people as you think. The skills that your team already has, we're going to talk about the training that we provide for our implementations and what that looks like, and then we're going to talk about when to hire versus when to partner. So when we talk about up top here, when you really who you really need, rather, you're going to need just a handful of people. Actually, you're going to need your coordinator. So that's going to be the person that's really leading this effort and driving the ship and making sure that this gets done. Not only making sure that it gets done on time, but making sure it gets done to specification, and so that your team is not only just like getting that thing, but actually getting that thing and it's working well and it's to the standards and everybody's happy with it. You're also going to need a subject matter expert. So that's typically going to be someone who's just really well versed in your actual business processes. That's, again, the subject matter that here is your business. We need to be able to optimize and automate those operations and make sure everything's moving as quickly, as efficiently as it can. So you're going to want someone who knows all the ins and outs. It's typically a CEO or a founder or an owner. There can also be situations where you have an operations manager or you have someone that's been at the company for a really long time that just knows all this stuff. Whatever that is, we need all that information, and it just typically lives inside of someone's head. And then the last person that you actually need, and is really more optional, is a technical liaison. And what we mean by that is just someone that can speak at a more technical level and understands the nuances and the limitations that tech has to be able to work around them and navigate that situation. So, hey, we want to do this, but it's not possible, or we can do it, but it's going to be super costly. What are other things that we can do to work around that? And they just need to be able to speak the technical talk to be able to understand and communicate that to your subject matter expert or your essential coordinator to get that done. Now we're going to talk about the skills that your team already has that are going to help with getting your AI solutions and infrastructure set up. The first one's going to be spreadsheet proficiency. So whether that's Excel or Google Sheets, you want someone who is able to use spreadsheets and is able to not only get in the nitty gritty with spreadsheets, but also be able to manipulate them very easily and effortlessly. Now, ChatGPT is great for giving you formulas and things like that, but all that stuff is super impactful when it comes to manipulating your data, which is the core of your AI setup. So next, we're going to talk about their basic understanding of data structure. So how to structure data, how do you manage your data structure as it grows and changes? That's going to be a super important skill that you want to have on your team. You might already have on your team already. And then the last one for skills is going to be process knowledge. So they know how AI processes data to get the best outputs. Now, that may be someone that you need to hire, someone you might need to consult, but you're going to want someone in your corner that knows about AI data processing. So they're able to refine that data, maybe define that prompting to be able to get you the best outputs for your infrastructure, whether that's for your customers, your internal team, whatever it may be. All right, now everything that we do and every implementation that we do, we provide a quick training on that particular infrastructure setup. So we provide you with the platform specific training. We'll go through the platform and the aspects and the features that you're using, but also on a higher level, like what are the other things that you might use. We'll give you support documents for that, whether they're provided by the actual platform or we need to create them. We'll use a tool that turns all of those recordings into SOPs and documents that you can use. And then from there, you're going to have all that training that you can really just be able to manage the implementation off of. That's the whole idea. We want to just give you all of that to be able to just run with and operate on your own. And then we've got our AI basics. So we have some standard documents that we use that cover what your errors look like, what are things that are actually things that cause for what to do when these types of situations happen and these things break, how to improve your outputs from your AI, and when you do get some things that are a little bit quirky, and then we'll cover best practices as well. So based on the setup of your business, what's going to keep your data clean and make sure that everything's running like a well-oiled machine. That's just going to vary depending on what your instance looks like. But we go through and talk about best practices for you to be able to get the best results and customize that to your situation, not just like the best way to get the best way to get sales output from ChatGPT is to use the word sales in your prompt. Like that's not super helpful. So we're gonna customize that for whatever it is specifically that you're trying to do in your AI implementation. And then we've got when to hire and when to partner. So when we talk about hiring versus partnering, we're really talking about your team. So it's really going to depend on one, how big is your project? Is this something that you're fully committed to actually having and doing in the long term? If it is, you're probably going to want to hire, right? If you're looking to get the most out of it, you're going to want to hire. Now, do you want to hire first, or do you want to partner with somebody, learn from them, and figure out exactly what it is, and then hire somebody from there? Maybe you get all the infrastructure set up, you figure out, okay, this is the code base or the database that we're using, and then we've got these two tools for connections, and then we've got these other three systems that we're connecting it all through, right? You can hire somebody that's got experience with those tools or with that specific type of data set, and that'll be able to provide you with an opportunity to pull somebody into your organization internally after you have all that set up, and make that transition a little bit smoother from your partnership to your own hiring. If you're looking for something a little bit smaller and you're really just looking for somebody that maybe does a little bit more with marketing, you could probably hire somebody that does marketing and also does a little bit of automation, right? It also just depends on how complex your project is. The other aspect is like, how quickly are you growing? If you're growing rather quickly, you might want to just choose a partner, because there will be a point where, hiring doesn't make sense as you're growing so much. Things are constantly changing. That person's work is going to look a little bit different and be kind of in a state of flux. So you want to make sure that they're consistent and obviously not make life too hard for them either, right? Otherwise, they're going to leave. But that might be an opportunity when you want to partner, because you're growing really quickly and you need that support to be able to keep you growing and get to that next level. And you'll hit a point where it's like, all right, this is the system, because we have all the right components that are all scalable together and this all works very harmoniously. Now we can bring people in internally and transition out away from that partnership. But again, if that's what you're looking at and you probably need that level of support, I would definitely advise partnership in that instance. Now we're going to talk about some common implementation challenges. So we've got real problems that we've solved, and then we've got employee skepticism, data messiness, and integration hiccups for that. And then we've got some implementation timelines, your planning phase, implementation, your fine tuning, and then some budget considerations in terms of, what do costs typically look like, where do they go up, how do you prevent overruns, and some hidden costs to watch out for. So for real problems that all right, so we've got common implementation challenges here. We're going to cover some real problems that we've solved. And I think the biggest problem that we actually have to tackle is going to be employee skepticism. So employees are going to think that they're going to get replaced with AI and automation. And that's just not the case, right? We're trying to make their life easier. We're trying to make it so that they can perform at a higher level. We're trying to make sure that they run into less irritated customers. We want our customers happy. Our employees want to deal with happy customers. Let's make that happen, right? So we really have to overcome that and really get buy-in from your employees and make sure that they understand, like, hey, this is not to replace you. This is really for you to stop doing so much running around in circles and really keep you focused and be able to systemize and make everything run like a well-oiled machine. And then we've got data messiness. So cleaning up all that data ahead of time is super important. We've handled that, and I think it's usually the hardest, not only because one, data's everywhere. You've got it in multiple systems, but it's also probably in different formats too, right? So you can't just copy and paste everything into an Excel spreadsheet and just give it a thumbs up. It's not really doesn't really work like that. So you'll have to copy and compile all this data from different different sources, and then clean it up and make sure that everything is uniform and is the way that you want. And there's no gaps in that either, right? You want to make sure that that's as easy rolling as possible. And then you've got your integration hiccups. Yay. So integration hiccups are when you get improper outputs, when data comes in one format, it's not accepted into the system in that same format. It has to be converted. So things will get stuck there, or you'll just get weird messages that don't make any sense because it's actually an error code, or you only got part of the output, whatever it may be, right? This stuff happens all the time. You want to make sure that your data is flowing properly and there's no points of failure for anything to get stuck on. Now, when it comes to actual timeline expectations, we're typically looking at a total of eight to 10 weeks. So the first phase is going to be our planning phase, which is typically 1 to 2 weeks. When you're really trying to get into an implementation, you want to make sure that your planning is done over the course of 1 to 2 weeks. That's just going to make sure that everything in terms of getting started and moving, you know what your next steps are, you know where you're going, so you know what to expect. If you ever get stuck, you know where you're stuck at and what the next thing is. And it helps you really just stay focused, but also keep on pace and make sure everything's moving. Not only moving, but also gives you a roadmap of like, all right, this is where we are and this is where we need to be. And it just keeps everybody's working relationship a lot smoother and a lot easier. Then you've got 4 to 6 weeks that you want to open up for your implementation. So 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to actually be able to implement and build out this infrastructure, be able to build out these solutions. And then we'll take about a week or two for fine tuning. We're going to let things run. We're going to see feedback. We're obviously doing quality testing during our implementation, but during that fine tuning phase, we're really trying to see like, all right, this is what it looks like with just every customer that you have coming to your website and asking you questions. Are they all getting quality responses? Are they all going to the next step? Are they all filling out that form to get their quote or their estimate or whatever it may be? Or are they just getting weird responses and leaving, right? So we need to figure that out during that fine tuning, which typically takes 1 to 2 weeks. And the last one, again, budget considerations here. So where do your costs typically go up? They're going to go up when you have a high amount of data output from your AI. And that's going to mean that you just have a ton of AI generated outputs and that you want to make sure that you're really taking the most time to limit that, right? Because those overruns and those overtures, they can get really expensive. If you can easily produce twice as much as you need to, or as you want to, or as necessary. And that's just going to make your bill twice as much for no reason, right? You're not going to get any benefit for spending twice as much. Another one to look out for is going to be identifying your hidden costs for your cost of seats, your different API key costs, and then your data storage costs. Those are your three core things, three core components of your AI infrastructure, your platform, but also the people working on your platform. So how many logins, how many seats do you need? API keys that you're using in your data storage. You'll have platform billing that you need to look out for as well, but you don't want that stuff kind of riding up on you. So keep your budget tight and make sure that you have a good understanding of what you already have covered, and then when your systems you're pulling into, what that's cost is going to look like as well. And then we've got our readiness checklist. So our readiness checklist is meant to be as simple as possible. We're looking for just really yes or no questions to be able to help you understand, like, is this something that you're ready for, building out AI infrastructure in your business? So do you have basic data? Do you have all that data set up? Is there a way for you to easily extract it? Do you have access to it? Is your leadership for the company on board? If leadership is on board and really wants to make that effort, then you're going to have better buy-in and it's going to be a better process. If you're fighting leadership on it and leadership is reluctant to see some the benefits of it, it's going to be a really, really, really long process. It's going to be a drudge. So you don't want that either, because then you're just fighting against the current the entire way there. Then who can you allocate a project owner? Is there anybody that's can be the champion of this project that is going to be able to lead this to the finish line? If you have a person that can do that, awesome. If you don't, who's going to own this entire thing and make sure that this gets done? Not only that it gets done, but it gets done properly and that everybody's actually using it as well at the end of the day. That's what your project owner is doing. And then you've got some first week actions that you can take. So for first week actions, you're really going to be looking at Just again, making sure that everything is organized and whoever's coming in and actually getting through and implementing things has access to everything. And then really just the low hanging fruit is what you're going to want to knock out the first. So what are the quick, easy wins that we can get that are going to make people's life easier? But before we actually get into the meat and potatoes, we're going to give them a little bit of an appetizer that they can kind of chew on a little bit. That'll get them feeling like, oh, this is actually a good idea. And just makes that, again, makes the more buy-in you have, the easier the process is going to be, right? You'll also want to identify some first month milestones. Where are your goals for your first month? What does that look like? And then expanding that to your 90-day goal timeline as well. So now how do you get started? So you can book a call in the link in the description. We can chat about what your AI implementation looks like, if you're even ready for one, and what you're trying to accomplish. More than happy to provide some guidance on that. We've also got some free resources on our website for those that are looking to explore their AI readiness. We've got some that are looking for those that are a little bit farther along their journey as well, that are already implementing some AI. And I've got a special offer for viewers as well. So check out the readiness checklist down below. In the description, I've got that free download for you guys to check out there. That'll be what you can look at and really help you kind of paint the landscape for, is my business ready for AI implementation? So go through that checklist, check that out. If you have any questions, you can book a call with me or leave them in the comment section below. I'm more than happy to chat with you guys.